Well, it really does go with the territory at Cellerhand that we spend a lot of time trying to explain German wine labels to people and trying to persuade them that they're not really as confusing as they look. But the one today is, to be fair, pretty nutso. This is from the Gunderloch winery in the Rheinhessen region of Germany, and the wine is called Als wär's ein Stück von mir, Riesling. So we often come across this concept in wine that a wine is a portrait of a place, be it a specific site or a village or a region, seen through the medium of vintage and of grape variety or grape varieties if it's a blend. This one here I sort of see as being a self-portrait, and the person depicting it is none other than 6th generation winemaker at Gunderloch, Johannes Hasselbach, an extremely thoughtful, sensitive, creative, fun-loving winemaker who has done wonderful things with this place. Now, I say self-portrait, that really goes back to this label, which seems bonkers, but actually there's method in the madness. Als wär's ein Stück von mir. So, als wär's, as if it were. This is obviously the imperfect subjunctive of sein, the verb to be, but obviously you knew that. Ein Stück von mir, a piece of me. Als wär's ein Stück von mir, as if it were a piece of me. So why? Well, Johannes didn't think he was going to be the winemaker here. His elder sister, Stephanie, ended up marrying an Austrian winemaker called Alvin Jurcic, who makes wonderful wine at the Jurcic winery in the Kamptal in Austria. So that left Johannes with a fair bit on to take over from a winery with a fantastic reputation. And as he was doing that, as is typical of someone like Johannes, he really thought about not just taking it on and what he was going to continue with, but really bringing it back to what the treasures were that this family owned in terms of its vineyards, and how best to bring out that charm in his own way by, I suppose in a way, doing as little as possible. So this, as he puts it, was setting an imaginary reset button at the winery and really looking at the way that his grandparents had made wine, very patiently, with any option really to put anything in or take anything away from the grapes, and just keeping everything as faithful as possible to the vineyards. So that's another reason why this is almost a piece of Johannes, because those vineyards that I'm talking about, they are in the so-called Roter Hang, the red slope over the River Rhine in the Rheinhessen region. So it's an east-facing slope with this red, crumbly, sandy slate soil. Really steep slopes, beautiful place, just running straight down to the river and facing east, between the villages of Nierstein and Nackenheim. Nackenheim is where the family winery is. So of those, they have 3 Grand Cru holdings, the Hasselbach family. They've got Hipping, Pettental, and the Rotenberg, which is really the jewel in the crown of this area. This wine then is also, you know, a piece of Johannes, because of course the family has lived literally from that soil for those 6 generations. And the grapes here come from mostly Hipping, so that's the Grand Cru 35-year-old vines that go into this, and the great Rotenberg site, but more with their younger vines. And the technique here then is pretty simple. It's hand-picked grapes, of course, off those steep soils. The wine, the grapes are given about up to 72 hours skin contact, fermented naturally with vineyard yeasts, and then they spend a very long time on their yeast lees as well. Pretty simple, not massively revolutionary, I should say, as well. This is kind of old school, no intervention winemaking. So, and these are all techniques that now Johannes uses with all the wines, really. They're just a great way to come up with that really frank expression of your grapes in your place. And what you get here really is a wine with unbelievable aromatic charm. It has lavender notes, all sorts of citrus blossoms on the nose. There's honey, there's hay, there's this lovely ripeness and vaporous, zesty florality to it. It's just gorgeous to smell. And on the palate, those skins actually don't result in any coarseness or any heaviness at all. This is an incredibly light wine on the palate, actually. It has this lovely, almost fizzy tangerine-like texture to it. Lovely powdery feel across the palate. just so light and so dancing and so elegant with lovely fresh fruit. So you've got juicy apple notes, you've got lovely citrus notes, those not just lemon and lime but into tangerine sort of territory too. Really ripe, juicy peach, which you often get here, and a little bit of grapefruit and spice on the finish. It's a gorgeous wine, and I think as well a portrait of a place and a person that the winery Gunderloch should be very proud of. So that's Gunderloch, als wär's ein Stück von mir. You can ask for it just by the Gunderloch wine with the crazy name, the red writing, the scribbly lines. However you ask for it, just make sure you try it.